Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? My name is Jerry. Tonight we have 4 true trucker horror stories. Real drivers, real roads, real encounters that you have never been able to explain. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know if you want more. Now grab a cup of coffee and lock your doors. Let's get into it. I had been on the road for about 9 hours when I stopped at the rest area of I-40 in Tennessee. It was around 2 in the morning. I was tired, but not dangerously tired. The kind of tired where you just need 20 minutes and some cold water and you can push through another few hours. My son had texted me earlier that evening, asked if I could make it to his baseball game Saturday. I told him I would try. She sent back a thumbs up, which from a 14-year-old means he does not believe you, but he is choosing not to say so. I had been thinking about that thumbs up for most of the last 2 hours, thinking about how I had missed the last 3 games and the one before that, and how at some point a kid stops sending the thumbs up and just stops asking altogether. I did not want to get to that point. I parked in the truck section. There were 2 other rigs there. Neither of them had their lights on, just sitting dark and quiet like they had been there a while. The rest area was one of the older ones, the kind that looks like it was built in the 70s and has been cleaned regularly ever since but never actually updated. Fluorescent lights inside that hum a little. Vending machines that take your dollar and think about it for a second before deciding. I got out, used the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, grabbed a bag of peanuts from the vending machine that I did not end up eating, and walked back to my truck. I remember looking up at the sky on the way back. Clear night. A lot of stars. I always notice the stars in Tennessee. Something about the tree line out there makes them look closer than they should. I climbed up to the cab door and opened it. There was a woman sitting in my passenger seat. I want to describe exactly what I saw because I have replayed it enough times that I know every detail. She was maybe 40. Dark hair pulled back. She was wearing a gray sweater, and she was sitting completely straight with her hands in her lap, looking forward through the windshield. Not at me. Forward, like she was waiting for the drive to start. I stood there on the step, with the door open, and I did not say anything for a second. My first thought was not fear. My first thought was confusion. Pure confusion. The kind where your brain just refuses to process what your eyes are giving it. Then I said, "Excuse me." She did not move, did not turn her head, did not acknowledge me at all. I said it again, louder. Nothing. I looked back at the lot. There were no other cars. No vehicles in the car section either. Just the 2 dark rigs, and my truck, and this woman sitting in my passenger seat, staring through my windshield. My door had been locked. I had locked it myself when I got out. I know I did, because I always do. 11 years of driving alone at night, you lock the door every time, without thinking about it. It is just what you do. I stood there on that step, and I looked at her for probably 10 seconds. She did not blink. That is what I noticed. She was not blinking. She was just sitting there completely still with her eyes open, staring through the windshield at the dark parking lot ahead of her. I stepped back down off the truck and I walked fast to the rest area building. There was a state trooper inside getting coffee. I told him there was a woman in my truck who would not respond to me. He put his coffee down and followed me back out without asking questions, which I appreciated. We walked to my truck together. He climbed up and looked in the passenger window with his flashlight. He held it there for a moment. Then he looked at me. He said there was nobody there. I climbed up and looked. The seat was empty. I stood there and looked at that empty seat and I did not know what to say. I turned and looked at the parking lot. The 2 dark rigs were still there. Nothing had moved. No car had pulled out. No person was walking away anywhere. The trooper was polite about it. He asked if I had been driving long. He asked if I had slept recently. He mentioned that the mind can do strange things when you are tired on a long haul. He was not unkind. He was just clearly thinking I had imagined the whole thing. I stood there, and I almost agreed with him. Almost. But here's the thing. On the passenger seat where she had been sitting there was a handprint. In the dust on the seat. A clear handprint. Like someone had pressed their hand flat into the seat and then lifted it straight up. The trooper saw it too. He went quiet. He leaned in a little closer with the flashlight. He looked at it for a long moment, and I watched his face while he did. Something moved across it. Not much, just a small thing. The look a person gets when they have decided not to say what they are actually thinking. He straightened up. He told me to have a safe drive and he walked back inside. He did not say anything about the handprint. Not one word. I stood there looking at it for a long time. I thought about going back inside and asking him to come look again, to say something about it, to give me some kind of explanation. I did not go back inside. Part of me did not want the explanation. I got in the cab. I sat in the driver's seat, and I looked at that handprint, and I looked at the empty seat, and I looked at the windshield where she had been staring. There was nothing out there. Just the dark parking lot, and the two silent rigs, and the tree line beyond the lights. I do not know how long I sat there. Eventually, I turned the dome light on. I drove with it on the rest of the way to my delivery, which I have never done before or since. It felt stupid. A grown man driving with the dome light on at 2 in the morning because he was unsettled. I did not care. The dome light stayed on. I made it to my son's game Saturday. He went 2 for 3. Had a double in the third inning that scored 2 runs, and he looked into the stands right after the way kids do when they want to make sure you saw it. I was there. I saw it. I stood up and yelled loud enough that the people around me probably thought I was embarrassing. I was fine with that. I did not tell him what happened that night because I did not want to scare him. But I sat in those bleachers and watched him play, and I was very glad to be there. There are nights on the road that remind you why you put up with the road. That Saturday was one of them. The handprint is gone now. Seat has been cleaned since. But I know what I saw, and I know the troopers saw it too. I just wish I knew what he decided not to say. The first time I passed it, I did not think anything of it. Mile marker 181 on a highway in eastern New Mexico. Flat, empty desert. 3 in the morning. Nothing at the marker except scrub brush and a reflective sign and darkness behind it. Normal. I have been listening to a podcast about the history of the Panama Canal, which is the kind of thing my wife says makes me sound like someone's grandfather. She is not wrong. I am fine with it. I passed mile marker 182. Mile marker 183. Kept driving. About 20 minutes later, something felt off about the road. Not the truck. Not a tire. Just the road. I looked at my GPS. It showed me on the highway. Moving forward. Nothing wrong. Then I passed mile marker 181 again. I pulled over. I sat on the shoulder and looked at the GPS for a solid 2 minutes. The highway was straight. I had not turned. There was nowhere to turn on this road. No exits. No crossroads. Just straight flat highway through flat empty desert. I had passed mile marker 181 twice on a straight road, going in one direction. I told myself the marker was wrong. Somebody had put a second one up by mistake, or the originals had been replaced and there had been a numbering error. That happens. I pulled back out and kept driving. Mile marker 182, 183, 184. I started counting them. 185, then 181. The third time I passed it, something was standing next to the sign. I was doing 70 miles an hour, and it was dark, so I did not get a good look. Just a shape. Tall. Standing right next to the marker facing the road. I kept driving. I was not going to stop. I got on the CB and asked if anyone else was running eastbound on this highway. Nobody answered for about a minute. Then a voice came back, a woman's voice. She said she was about 30 miles ahead of me eastbound. I asked her if she had passed anything strange around mile marker 181. She went quiet for a second. Then she said, "I don't stop at 181. I asked her what she meant. She said, "I just don't stop there. Keep your speed up and you'll be fine." Then she went quiet and did not respond when I tried to reach her again. I passed mile marker 181 a fourth time. This time the shape was on the shoulder, not next to the sign, on the shoulder, closer to the road. I was doing 75. It was tall and thin, and as I passed it, I am almost certain it turned to watch me go. After that, the mile markers went normally. 182, 183, 184, all the way to my exit without repeating. I got to the truck stop at the exit, and I sat there for a while before I went inside. I asked the woman behind the counter if she knew anything strange about mile marker 181. She stopped what she was doing. She looked at me. She said, "You passed it more than once, didn't you?" I said 4 times. She shook her head slowly. She said most people only pass it twice. I asked her what that meant. She said she did not know. She just knew that drivers who passed it more than twice tended to have a hard time for a while after. I asked her what kind of hard time. She said, "Just hard time. You'll be okay. It usually passes." I did not know what to say to that, so I just bought my coffee and went back to my truck. That was 7 months ago. She was right that it passes. Mostly. About 2 years ago, I was running a load through northern Arkansas. Late October. Cold night. The kind of road where you go 40 minutes without seeing another vehicle. I had been talking to my brother on the phone earlier in the evening. He had just told me our dad was not doing well. Nothing sudden. Just a slow, kind of not doing well that you see coming from far away and cannot do anything about. I was not in a great headspace. I will just say that. Around midnight I picked up another driver on the CB. She came on strong and clear, which was surprising given how empty that road was. She said he was running northbound on the same highway. Said it was good to have someone to talk to on a quiet night. I agreed. We talked for a while about nothing. Routes, weather, truck stops we liked. He had a friendly voice, easy to talk to. After maybe 20 minutes he asked how my dad was doing. I did not say anything for a second. Then I asked him what he meant. He said, "You mentioned earlier you were worried about your dad." I had not mentioned my dad. I had not said anything personal at all. We had talked about roads and weather and the truck stop in Missouri that had good pie. I told him I had not said that. He said, "Sure you did. About 10 minutes ago. You said he wasn't doing well." I sat there holding the CB handset and I went back through our conversation in my head. I had not said it. I knew I had not said it. I asked him his name. He told me a name. I will not repeat it here because what I am about to tell you is strange enough without me adding to it. He told me a name that was my father's name. Not a common name. Not a name you guess by accident. My father's name. I put the CB down. I did not respond. I drove for about 10 minutes in silence. Then he came back on. He said, "You still there?" I did not answer. He said, "It's okay, you know, about your dad." These things have a way of working out. I turned the CB off. I drove the next hour and a half without it on. When I got to the truck stop, I asked the dispatcher on duty if any other trucks had been running northbound on that highway that night. She checked. She said no, just me. I asked her about the frequency I had been on. She looked at it. She said that frequency was not a standard channel. She said she did not know where it came from. I sat in that truck stop until sunrise. I called my brother in the morning. My dad passed 2 weeks later. I have not used that CB frequency again. I am not sure what I was talking to that night. I am not sure I want to know. But whoever it was, whatever it was right. Things did work out, in the way these things work out. The address made no sense from the moment I pulled up. I was in West Virginia, rural, dark, the kind of area where you lose GPS signal and have to trust the last direction it gave you and hope for the best. The last direction it gave me had brought me to a gravel road that ended at a gate. Beyond the gate was a field, flat, open, maybe 200 yards across, tree line on the far side. No buildings, no dock, no lights, nothing. I checked the delivery address again. It matched. I called the company. It was just after midnight, so I got the overnight line. A woman answered and I gave her the order number, and she confirmed the address. I told her the address was an empty field. She put me on hold for a few minutes. When she came back, she said the address was confirmed, and the recipient was expecting delivery between midnight and 2 a.m. I asked her if there was maybe a building I was not seeing. She said the notes on the order just said, pull through the gate and drive to the center of the field. I sat in my truck and looked at that field for probably 5 minutes. I am going to be honest. I almost just left, filed it as an incomplete delivery and left. But I had driven 6 hours to get there, and I am stubborn in a way that has caused me many problems over the years. My ex-wife could write a book about it. I got out and opened the gate. I drove into the field. The grass was tall on either side. My headlights lit up maybe 50 feet ahead. Beyond that, just dark. I drove to what felt like the center of the field and stopped. And that is when I saw the chair. It was a wooden chair. Plain, straight-backed. Sitting in the middle of the field facing my truck. Just a chair. In the middle of a field. At midnight, facing my truck. I sat in my cab and looked at it. There was nobody sitting in it. I checked my mirrors. Tree line on 3 sides. The gate behind me. Nobody anywhere. I called the company back. The same woman answered. I told her there was a chair in the middle of this field, facing my truck, and no recipient and no building, and I needed to know what was going on. She put me on hold again. This time for almost 10 minutes. When she came back, her voice was different. Quieter, she said the order had been cancelled. I asked her when it had been cancelled. She said, just now. I asked her who cancelled it. She said she could not see that information. I asked her if she could see who placed the order. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, the order was placed by the delivery address itself. I asked her what that meant. She said she did not know. She said it sometimes happened with automated systems. She did not sound like she believed that. She told me I was free to leave, and that I would be compensated for the full trip. I looked at that chair one more time before I turned around. It had not moved. Still facing my truck. Still empty. I drove back through the gate, and I got out and closed it behind me, and I got back in my truck and I left. I kept my eyes on my mirrors until the field was out of sight. I called my dispatcher in the morning and told him what happened. She was quiet for a while. Then he said, did you sit in it? I said no. She said, good. I asked him why. He said he had heard of things like this before. Orders placed to empty locations. A chair or a table or something set up in the middle of nowhere. She said he had heard of one driver who got out and sat in the chair because he thought it was some kind of prank. I asked what happened to him. My dispatcher said, he's fine. He just doesn't drive at night anymore. I asked him, why not? He said, he says he doesn't like what he sees on the road at night now. I did not ask anything else after that. Some answers make things worse. I still do not know who placed that order. I still do not know what the chair was for. I still do not know what would have happened if I had gotten out and sat in it. I think about that last one the most.